Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a movie that I had the pleasure of seeing in theaters today. I saw it with my buddy Jeff and another buddy from my school, Zoe, who actually does have a YouTube account and he does review stuff. So it's called The Zoman, in case any of you are interested. But anyway, the movie, of course, is Arnold Schwarzenegger's first starring role in a movie since 2003. It, of course, is The Last Stand. There's my ticket. Unlike last time, they didn't rip it in half. Now, as I just mentioned, Arnold's first starring role since 2003, which I will say I did have the pleasure of seeing Terminator 3 in theaters. I know some people would say, pleasure, really? But yeah, I do enjoy the film. I'll say it's not as good as Terminator 1 and 2, but for what it is, it's interesting, even if they have to cheat the mythology in order to make the sequel possible. But it was a fun theater experience. And I have to say, this was a funner theater experience, I'll have to say. But it's good to see Arnold back on the big screen 10 years later, because I don't think his little cameos in Expendables 1 and 2 really count as him being back in theaters, just him making a little minor appearance. But still, those were still good to see him in theaters. But I have to say, in his words, to paraphrase Arnold's line in Expendables 2, I'm back. And he really is at this film. I will say my only real gripe with the movie off the top is, yes, I'm checking a message real quick. My only real gripe is that Arnold isn't in the movie as much as I had hoped he would be in it, and not as much as his other movies. But not really a big gripe, I would say. That's my only real problem with it. And after thinking about it for a while, I have to say, with how the movie is, it kind of fits how much Arnold's in the movie. But it makes me wonder, is this a movie that was written specifically for Arnold, or is this a movie he just expressed interest in after reading the script? Without looking up, I'd have to say it's probably the second one based on it. Because if this one was written specifically for him, then he must have probably given his blessing for him not to be in the movie much at first, or he didn't care because of his age. He felt, it'd be more fitting for me to be like that. Be interesting to... I have to say, when the DVD comes out, it'd be interesting to see some of the special features and stuff. But it's an interesting film, and I'm happy to report that it is a film that is getting some love. At the time I record this, it has a 7.6 on IMDb. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 72% with the audience and a 57% with the critics, which, that's kind of an amazing number, I think. And here's what the consensus is. There's nothing particularly distinguishing about it, which I'll say it's true. But then, for a film like this, you don't expect it to be distinguished. Good shock when it is, but anyway. But for Schwarzenegger fans, The Last Stand provides perfectly undemanding entertainment. I don't know if they're trying to use undemanding as an insult there, but I have to say the film was entertaining. Now, the sad thing is that, of course, the movie is kind of flopping right now, because it has about a $30 to $45 million budget. I don't know the exact figure. And it's only made not even $8 million, which is kind of a shame. And I think there's two reasons for this. One is competition from other films, like the horror film Mama, which I've heard good things about, but that's more of a DVD film for me. And also, I think some of those recent shootings might have turned some people off to action movies, which that's kind of a shame. I mean, just because some idiot gets a gun and shoots a bunch of people in real life doesn't mean you should feel guilty about watching a shoot-'em-up film, especially when you want to see a guy like Arnold beat the crap out of a villain at one point in the film. But I think that might have something to do with it. And also the fact that it's January, and they always usually put some films in January. But I will say The Last Stand for me kind of breaks that, because you guys all know the last couple films that I've seen that come out in January. 2011 we had A Season of the Witch, which I have to revisit again, but I remember liking it, but could have been better at some points. The Gray, you guys all know that my biggest problem is the ending with that movie, but other than that, I did enjoy it. But this movie, all around, was a better film. It's directed by a guy named Kim Ji-woon, and this is his first American production. Before this, he's directed movies, guessing overseas: Quiet Family, The Foul King, A Tale of Two Sisters, A Bittersweet Life, The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, and I Saw the Devil. Well, if I could find like a dub version or a subtitle version, I'll try to give them a watch if they're not in English, if I can find them. And of course, other than Arnold, the movie has Johnny Knoxville, which I have to say, he didn't annoy me in the film. I'll just say that off the top of my head. Rodrigo Santoro as one of Arnold's deputies, Zach Guilford as another deputy, Forrest Whitaker as FBI agent John Bannister, Genesis Rodriguez as another FBI agent, Jamie Alexander as Arnold's only female deputy, Louis Guzman as another deputy, and our villain is played by Eduardo Noriega. His character's name is Cortez. Now, the plot of the movie is that this Cortez, who is a cartel member who has been sentenced to death, is being transferred from one place to another by the FBI. Now, as they're transferring him, something happens and he escapes. I'm not going to spoil how he escapes because it was a cool escape scene. And he manages to get away in this car that was specially modified so it can go almost 200 miles an hour. So as Whitaker puts it, we got a psycho and a Batmobile. Because it's basically it's not modified to look, like the Batmobile, but it's a specialty car, that kind of gets that feeling. And he's running from Las Vegas, Nevada, which is where he was being held, to the Mexican border at Arizona. Now, where he's planning on going is near a sleepy town called Somerton Junction. And it's a small town, kind of, out of the nowhere, basically a town where everybody knows everybody else. And the sheriff of said town is Arnold's character, Ray Owens, who is a man who basically has no problem being the sheriff of a quiet town, seems to like the quiet, but as you find out throughout the film, he does kind of have a slightly dark past. It's mostly with his law enforcement career when he was in LA, which I'm not going to spoil what it is, but it kind of has developed Arnold's character into the man that he is. And it's kind of one of the reasons he kind of feels for his deputy named Jerry a little bit, because he kind of sees a younger him in him, which kind of goes into the last act of the plot, which I'm not going to spoil. But anyway, the Cortez gets closer and closer to there. The FBI tries to stop him. They eventually contact Ray and tell him that Cortez might be heading for there. The sheriff tells his deputies that, and they're investigating a homicide at this one farmer's residence, which the farmer was played by an actor that I recognize. You want to know who the farmer is played by? You have to look carefully to notice it, but it's played by none other than Harry Dean Stanton. That's right, the alien's first victim, and also the guy that betrayed Snake Plissken. Or attempted to. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so give me a break. But anyway, he was a nice little minor role. Anyway, they discover something involved Cortez. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but we see part of it in the trailers. And of course, now the sheriff department and all of them are going to try to stop Cortez from escaping over the border, and that's the end of the plot. And as you can tell from the trailer, they deputize Johnny Knoxville's character, get weapons from him. So it's basically the sheriff's department against Cortez's goons throughout the last act. And I have to say, it was a very entertaining film. I mean, Kim Ji-woon, I felt, shot the action very well. I didn't notice any shaky cam. It kind of looked more like panning. How he framed the shots was good. So I have to say, if he does more action, I'd love to see it. But I hope the film flopping doesn't keep him from doing more films, because that'd be a shame, at least in my opinion. Arnold, he seemed more on top of his game here than he did in his cameo roles, but I think that's because he's the main star of the movie. And they do kind of bring some age jokes into it, like you see in that trailer. How you feeling, Sheriff? Old. It's just stuff like that, and some minor stuff like him taking a little bit longer to get up, but it's done gracefully, at least I thought. It's not like, self-aware parody stuff, but I thought it was did well. And Arnold, you can tell he's getting back into the swing of acting. He does flex his acting muscle a couple of times. Like there's a scene where you could tell his character is in an emotional moment, but he's holding it back, so it's the less is more approach. And I thought he did a pretty good job at it. And it's good to see him delivering one-liners, which is mostly in the third act, like we see in all those trailers. You fucked with my day off. I'm the sheriff. And then there's another one. Welcome to Somerton. Not gonna spoil the context of that one, but that was a good one. There's a couple other ones I don't remember off the top of my head, but they were good. Johnny Knoxville, he wasn't that annoying, and he wasn't in the movie as much as I thought he was going to be in it, but there is a scene that kind of looks like the reverencing Jackass, where he does fall off something and hurt himself, but it was done pretty good, and I did like his outfits in it, like armor and stuff. Rodrigo Santoro and Zach Guilford as two of the deputies. I thought they did a pretty good job. So check and see which one Rodriguez is real quickly. Okay, he's the one that played. Okay, I recognize this guy. This is the guy that played the military one. Rodrigo played the military, the former military guy that becomes a deputy in the third act. Throughout most of the movie, he's just sitting in a jail cell, but I felt he did a pretty good job in this movie, and this is not the first movie I recognize him from. Apparently, he played Xerxes in 300. He played the character Paulo in Lost. He was in the movie I Love You, Philip Morris, and he did a voice work in Rio. Here, I think he did a pretty good job. I believed him as a former military guy with how he acted in the character. Zach Gilford in the role he did, I thought he did a pretty good job. Not the best performance, I would say, but it kind of fit the way the type of character is. I've never seen any of the things he's been in. Forrest Whitaker is always good to see, and of course, we all know the ironic thing about this is Whitaker was originally supposed to be in Expendables and Terry Cruz's character. So, if he had been, that would have been him saying that Terminated line. That probably would have been him saying the Terminated line to Arnold in Expendables 2, so kind of a little irony there. Genesis Rodriguez as Agent Ellen Richards. I thought she did a pretty good job, and I sort of expected a thing involving her character, but it still kind of surprised me a little bit, but I'll probably look for more hints about it the next time I watch the movie. Louis Guzman as Deputy Mike. See, I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this last name. I'm not even going to try it. It's spelled Figuerola. He did a pretty good job. I recognize his face and his voice a little bit, but I haven't seen much of what he's in. You know, he was in Carlito's Way, Snake Eyes, The Cowboy Way, Guilty of Sin. Oh, that's where I recognize his voice from. He was in Grand Theft Auto Vice City as Ricardo Diaz. You stupid horse! Don't worry, I can buy 100 more. That's where I recognize his voice. My house! My beautiful house! Jamie Alexander is Deputy Sarah Torres. I thought she also did a pretty good job. I'll just say the cast as a whole all did a good job. Now, Eduardo Noriega as Cortez. You really do hate him throughout the whole movie. It's kind of the whole movie as he's trying to get away. You really do want to see Arnold beat the crap out of him. And by the end, you're not really disappointed when he does finally get his hands on Eduardo, which I will say I've never seen any of the other stuff he's been in. What, he was in Guillermo... Yeah, apparently... Oh, he's in a movie I do want to look at. He was in Guillermo del Toro's film, The Devil's Backbone. Interesting, but... I'll say the character of Cortez, while not physically a match for Arnold, the fact that he's younger and hasn't been shot out already does kind of give him a slight edge for Arnold, even though he has a strength advantage, he's older. But we all know Arnold's going to beat the crap out of him, and he does. And their fight... Not to spoil anything, it's... Well, compared to some of the Arnold fights I see, it's done a little differently. It has kind of like an MMA kind of base, I noticed. But I felt for the size and style differences of the two characters, it fit. And also, we get to see Arnold, like, do some, like, powerbomb stuff, which I thought was cool. And also how that scene set up, I'm not going to spoil, but I enjoyed it. Will this film end up on my top films of the year list? Most likely. Unless there's some better action movies released this year, but... In conclusion, I liked the direction. I thought the acting was serviceable for the film. Nothing Oscar or award-winning, but it served as the action film. The score, I thought, was decent at least. It fit the film. Arnold, like I said before, he's getting back into form. In the next couple of movies he probably makes, he'll be probably getting back in the swing of things. Now, I will say, I didn't expect Arnold to be like how he was in some of the 80s or 90s films. Kind of expecting that outside of something... or like Expendables or some other film where he's going to kick a lot of butt. I wouldn't really expect that, but I actually had fun with it. It's probably a film that a lot of people will like. Like I mentioned, the only problem I had was Arnold wasn't in it a lot at first, but that's just really my only real complaint. My rating for it, I'd say 4 out of 5 stars. As you can already tell, if you're an Arnold fan, I say it's worth your time, because I really don't want this film to flop. Dread flopping was bad enough. Come on, will the Governator be forced to flop as well?